And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of the Druids Dozen, episode 20, I believe. It's just a little bit of fun where I sit in front of a camera and drag out a dozen albums from my record collection and chat about them for a bit. My name's John. I'm a bit of a DJ, mainly on the radio these days. I do the Sunday Rock Show on BCFM 93.2 FM in the Bristol, UK area, which is also syndicated worldwide via the Rock Radio Network. And I also present the Rock Druid on astroradio.earth, a internet-based science and music station that has around about 750,000 regular listeners every week worldwide. So yeah, some of you out there may have heard of me. Most of you won't have though. So without further ado, I've just got my 12 albums here. I've actually got my glasses ready this week. So let's us kind of start grabbing these albums, shall we? Got to kick off vinyl as always, first of all, with a bit of this. Yeah, this is Helloween, Walls of Jericho from, he says, trying to remember when this was released. I want to say 1984, 85. There's the front, anyway. Great album cover. There's the back. Pull this out. There's lyrics and credits. There's the what at the time, what was the Noise Records catalogue. Quick look at the disc. (1985), yeah, and it was on there somewhere. Yeah, and there's the label. Got a bit crinkly that side for some reason. Happened to quite a few of these albums on Noise Records. There's that. Yeah, back in the day. Don't know if they had a faulty label application thing or what, I don't know. Anyway, Helloween, classic German sort of like thrash metal, early power metal band, and this, I believe, was their first full-length album. They had an EP out called the Judas EP about a year before this, but this was their first full-lengther. Slightly different lineup to the to what they had a couple of years later when they started getting really sort of internationally famous and releasing albums like The Keeper of the Seven Keys, Duology, etc. Basically, this is Kai Hansen on guitar and vocals, Michael Keith on guitar, Markus Glosskopf on drums. That means big head, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, and it was on bass, and Indigo Zwischentendenberg on drums. Yeah, Michael Bighead. I don't know if that's a real German name. I couldn't tell you. Or it was just his stage name. I don't know. But looking at a picture of him here, he doesn't seem to have a big head. But yeah, there we go. Anyway, those of you that are familiar with Helloween sound, might find this album a little bit surprising. This one is more of a thrash metal album than the kind of power metal stuff they went into later. Although it's still got the kind of high, almost like Rob Halford style, high-pitched vocals, Mr. Hansen, and it's still got all that kind of class, all the hallmarks of the Helloween are there, but in a kind of more of a primordial thrash kind of vein than the developing into the power and speed metal that they did later. But it's just a pretty good album overall. It's not perfect. There's a few bits where it kind of is dabbling a bit too much with cliche and clunkiness, but yeah, but it's got cuts on like Walls of Jericho, which is Ride the Sky, which is Walls of Jericho's the album, which is still one of my favourite Helloween tracks, and one that used to be a bit of a favourite in the old Granary Rock Club in Bristol years and years ago. Guardians, Phantoms of Death, Metal Invaders, Heavy Metal is the Law. All kind of pretty sweet headbangy thrash, moshable thrash metal kind of primordial thrash kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah, recommended. It's a good album. Not perfect, but it shows a band on its way to greatness. And just drinking the album cover, because it's one of my favourite record covers, this one. It's the Pumpkin Man smashing down the walls of Jericho. Great stuff. Yeah, number one, Walls of Jericho by Helloween. Okay, next up, we'll have a bit of this. There's the front. This is the Swim EP by Feeder. There's the back. Pop this open. There's the disc. And that's what's behind the disc, including some lyrics quoted from the song Sweet 16, which I'll come to in a minute. And then we have a booklet here, or rather it's not a booklet, it's a fold out, which is basically that across the inside. Again with snippets of lyrics. And there's the out there, the other side of the fold out. Now, Feeder, if you're in the UK, you probably don't need much of an introduction to one of the classic indie rock bands, been active since the oh god, when was it? Yeah, mid 1990s. This is 1996, and I think this is their second EP. Maybe I think there's a couple of things before him. I don't know. My knowledge of Feeder, much as I like the band, isn't that complete. But anyway, you know, a good few years after this, they had a couple of big hits with cuts like Buck Rogers and that kind of thing. But this dates back from the days when they were still a kind of relatively unknown indie band. Now, like many people, my first experiences of Feeder was playing the original Gran Turismo game on the PlayStation. I got my first PlayStation back in the 90s and late 90s, and one of the games that came with it was Gran Turismo, the original. And on the soundtrack of that, you've got a couple of cuts by these guys. Sweet 16 and I think it's Stereo World. They became my favourites. Yeah, they're kind of like hard rock, indie, hard-edged indie, as I like to call it. They became two of my favourite tracks to drive races to, and that led to me doing a bit of exploration. And within a year or so, buying this because I found the album that both tracks were on, and then well, I've been a bit of a fan ever since. I've got about half their back catalogue knocking around on the racks behind me. Yeah, three-piece. I'm out of South Wales, out the Newport area. Just a very, very good band. They had the ability to kind of be indie enough for the floppy-haired students, but rocky enough for some of us older headbangers. I remember going to see them not long after this came out. Well, within a year or so, it was Feeder. They were touring with another band from the southwest in the same area, in the same genre, kind of reef. A very interesting mixed audience, from kind of, you know, greasy bikers to floppy-haired students. Very, very entertaining. Seen them live a few times over the years now, and you know, they just rock. Even some of their softer stuff I find really engaging. But anyway, this still remains my favourite Feeder release. It's probably the heaviest thing they've done, probably the most rock and roll thing they've done. I say cuts like the aforementioned Sweet 16. Well, Sweet 16 is my favourite Feeder song. It's absolutely storming. It's quite a powerful, emotive lyric, and the riff is to die for. Wit, Stereo World, Descend, Shade, Swim, all pretty good stuff. And if you're interested in kind of exploring Feeder in their early days, good place to start. Yeah, Swim by Feeder from 1996. Good stuff. Okay, next up, we're going to have something which I haven't dragged one of these out yet on the show. I'm just going to turn this round a bit. So it kind of looks nice when I drag it out the sleeve. There's the front. It's the picture disc. This is Hawkwind's debut album. This particular pressing dates from, I want to say around about 1990. I think it's a 20th anniversary pressing picture disc. May be wrong. Like I said, more serious Hawkwind collectors down in the comments can correct me. But there's the front. There's the back of the cardboard sleeve. There's the front of the record. I do have this on an original 70s pressing gatefold, but I thought I'd bring the picture disc out for today's intents and purposes. And there's the back. And finally, there we have the autograph of the late great Hugh Lloyd Langston, who played guitar on this album. Sadly, no longer with us at the Great Gig in the Skies, Huey, but strange guy, but a really nice guy as well. Wife was a bit feisty, but she was really nice when he got to know her. Anyway, there's, let's say, Hawkwind, the seminal first album. When a certain guy that was kind of renowned on the London busking scene, a guy called Dave Brock, met up with another London busker called Nick Turner, I believe in the Mountain Grill Cafe in Notting Hill, and decided they wanted to do some stuff together, and slowly recruited some mates, including, like I said, the 16-year-old Hugh Lloyd Langston, who plays on this album. Originally called Band X, became known as Hawkwind after Nick Turner had a heavy cold and tended to fart a lot at the same time, so hawk in his throat, farting out the other end. Name has stuck ever since. Yeah, interesting stuff. 1984 this reissue is, so that's when the sleeve notes are from, so I'll take it from there. Now, Hugh Lloyd Langston left not long after this album came out to be replaced by a guy called Tony Slattery, I believe, who was also only with them briefly, and then they went through their guitarless period. Well, so I had Dave Brock on guitar, but they didn't have a dedicated lead guitarist right through till, well, when Hugh Lloyd Langston rejoined in the late 1970s. But anyway, interesting album. It's not the most accessible Hawkwind albums, I'll give it that. The opening cut, Hurry on Sundown, which was also their first single, and the closing cut, Mirror of Illusion. Two songs written by Dave Brock from his busking days. They sound very kind of contemporary psychedelic folk. It's all kind of strummy acoustic guitars, and the rest of Hawkwind doing interesting rhythmic patterns behind. The rest of it, The Reason Is, Be Yourself, Paranoia Part 1 and 2, and Seeing It As You Really Are again, these are kind of more what you would expect from early Hawkwind. These are kind of more experimental acid rock workouts, although on this album they're sounding more like German band Amundal 2 than they do of the Hawkwind that went on to do albums like Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do, Haul the Mountain Grill, In Search of Space, etc. But it's still quite a listenable album. It's not a classic in the Hawkwind canon, but it's a good bit. It shows where the band came from, and yeah, worth an explore. Yeah, Hawkwind, the original Hawkwind album, 1970. Good stuff. Well, like I said, this is an 84 edition picture disc. Okay, next up, Now we're going to I noticed when I grabbed these and I assembled it in a running order, we're going to be spending a lot of time in the English city of Bath this week. Or Bath, whatever you want to call it. Local say Bath, you know. And just why it came out. Got 3 bands from Bath on the list. I think it's 3, yeah, 3. So anyway, first band from Bath. Fabric, and this is their 4-2 album. Although the keen-eyed amongst you will know that the album cover is shot on the beach at Weston-super-Mare. There's the front. There is the back of the sleeve with the, I believe, the wall of the Tropicana. I don't know, I haven't been to Western for a while. I think it's a Tropicana though, where Banksy had the Dismal Land expedition, that bit of wall. Again, broken jewel case. Shot under the pier at Western. I'll pop this out. There's the band, and that's just the track listing and a few album credits. Now, this lot, like I said, they're out of Bath, and they're sort of prog rock. I say sort of because although they got a heavy progressive streak through them, they kind of also got elements of alternative rock and indie thrown in. Use of loops in places almost gives them a kind of electronic vibe. Just an interesting mix of stuff. Now this lot came out of Bath, and as far as I'm aware, this is the only album they released. This came out in 2007. Again, I may be wrong. If you know Fabric, please let me know. Released this album, say 4-2, on our very first album of the year competition back in 2007. Did quite well for itself. I think, yeah, top 5 finish. But anyway, so an interesting blend of kind of prog rock, kind of indie alternative, bit of electronica maybe, almost maybe a tad gothic in places as well. Overall it's pretty good. Cuts to look out for: Rain Clouds, Aqua, Doors, The State I'm In, Hold Me Now, A Message. All pretty good stuff. Female fronted. Anna Parry, the girl singer, who also is the producer of this record. God, she's got a cracking voice on her, kind of try to think who to compare her with, but it's hard. She's pretty unique, but a very sweet but kind of gutsy vocal, if I remember rightly. I haven't played this album for a while. After I come off here, I'm going to give it a spin to remind me. But yeah, overall, not a bad album. Now, as to the availability of this one now, couldn't tell you. As far as I'm aware, the band no longer exists. Again, if I'm wrong, please tell me. But, so you may need to do some digging, but, you know, if you have a certain mindset and you can hear before you buy, a digging may around this may kind of pay off. Yeah, Fabric 4-2. We're going to stay in Bath for the next one, and what I deem a bit of a classic. There's the front. This is Monolith by the Amoebics, 1987. There's the back. Oh no, it's only a plastic inner sleeve on this one. Because this, if I remember rightly, was rescued from a charity shop. Ah, great stuff indeed. Now, this album is a classic. Those of you who don't know, the Amoebics, band out of Bath, absolute cult legends, not only in Britain but worldwide. One of the hardest bands to pigeonhole and categorise you'll ever come across. they got the kind of rawness and almost kind of like blues boogie attitude of something like Motorhead. Most of their stuff's washed in a kind of gothic-y post-Hawkwind keyboards kind of wash. The music itself's delivered with a kind of raw punk aggression that almost borders on grindcore. They got kind of, the lyrics are kind of very political and narco-punky. Just a very, very interesting band, and what they just make for compelling listening. Now this album I've got a personal connection with. My old band Covenant is stamped on the back credits, primarily because Andrew A. Droid Wiggin, who's the key Wiggins, sorry, not Wiggin, Wiggins. Sorry Andy, if you're going to watch this, I called you Chief Wiggin. Andy Wiggins, that's right. Who plays the keys on this, was originally bass player in my band Covenant, and you know, we were on the same circuit, and these, you know, Covenant were a kind of band on a very small label going nowhere. Amoebics were a band with an international reputation. Andy was a guy that was a pretty good keys player as well as being a bass player. He got the call, he took the call. No one's got, none of us, well, I don't know, I can't speak to the rest of the band, but I didn't blame him for taking the job. Recorded this album with them, the rest of them, Rob the Baron on vocals, Spider on drums and percussion, and Stig the Pig on guitar. Recorded this album with them. The Amoebics broke up a year or two later, and then Andy came back and played with another band I was in called Beowulf, kind of like Hawkwindy kind of gong type band. But anyway, it's not just because I've got a couple of my mate plays on this, but this is my opinion, the Amoebics' finest hour. Although they've done a couple of albums since that run it close. This is just a fine record. From the opening cut, Monolith goes into Nobody's Driving, right through to the classic cut Coming Home at the end, with its growled kind of anthem, The Boys Are Coming Home, a song a track that's inspired my own writing as well. There isn't really a weak point on this. It's intense, it's as heavy as fuck, it's just, it grinds, it pounds, it headbangs. It's not particularly fast. It's actually quite slow and doomy in places, but you know, don't let that put you off. This is a record to die for. This is an original vinyl pressing, not in particularly good nick. Like I said, I used to have this on cassette. Cassette got eaten, and I was lucky enough a couple of years ago to find this in a record bargain rack in a charity shop. It's sort of playable. I cleaned it up the best I could. But anyway, this is quite collectible now. I've seen these going on eBay for 30-40 quid. It has had a CD reissue and a digital reissue, so tracking down shouldn't be too hard. But overall, just a great album. If you've not heard the Amoebics, this is the place to start. Some of their other stuff is, actually all their other stuff's pretty damn good overall, but this one, I don't know. Yeah, because like I said, after Andy left Covenant, we to join the Amoebics, we replaced another bass player, and when they toured this album, we did a couple of dates with them, including a crazy night at the Long Acre Hall in Bath that I could probably fill up an hour-long video just telling you about the events of that evening. But overall, powerful record, and worth being in anyone's collection. The Amoebics, Monolith, 1987, a classic indeed. Just gonna, well, hang on, is it this one? Yeah, having a quick slurp of coffee. Okay, next up, a band who I believe were out of London originally. Here we are. This is the Dragged Kicking and Screaming EP by Spit Like This. There's the front. There's the back. There's the behind the scene thing with the band posing by their hearse. There's the disc. And once again, there's the there's Greasy in the sleeve of the band and a few details. And yeah, there's the bolt out of this lot. Now, Spit Like This, and when was this album? When did this one come out? 2004. Wow. Yeah, Spit Like This, kind of sleazy horror rock maybe. Band out of London. Good fun bunch of lads and lasses. Very, very early days of my band Alien Stashed In, we had the great privilege of supporting Spit Like This, and I've kind of kept in touch with Lord Zion ever since. I don't think Spit Like This are a going concern anymore. I did a couple of full-length albums after this, got themselves signed up. This was a self-released jobbing, and so they got themselves signed up, did a couple of albums, though I believe the band kind of fell apart. And Lord Zion and his missus now live up in the Midlands somewhere, miles from anywhere, in the middle of nowhere, as on what I've heard, kind of just hanging out. Now, if I'm wrong, Lord Zion, you see this, let me know. Now, this is a little 3-track EP, Rebel Lover, Obscene But Not Heard, Who Needs You? Every track's a bit of a kind of classic, sleazy, horror rocking, kind of slightly gothic, kind of glammy concoction of noisy goodness. Yeah, not much else to say about this. If I had to pick a favourite track, it'll probably be Rebel Lover, but hey, the other two are pretty strong as well. The performances on here are great. The vocals are kind of the lyrics are kind of quite dark, but very tongue-in-cheek. The rest of the band riff and rock and boogie and shudder like bastards, and yeah, overall just the great stuff. Like I said, this was their one. I don't know if this was their first, but this was an early EP of theirs. Don't know whether this is going to be available or whether it's a collector's item, but whatever, maybe worth checking out. And check out some of their other albums as well if you like. Yeah, so they carried on, did a couple of really good albums. So after this EP came out. So, Spit Like This, dragged, kicking and screaming EP. Pretty good. Okay, now we're having something brand new. Brand new release. This has only just come out within the last couple of days. There's the front. This is Metamorphosis by Preston band Ward 16. There's the back. There's the full outer gatefold. There's the full inner gatefold. No, there's nothing of interest behind the disc. Here you've got a little man, comes with it, part of a competition that they've got. If you buy the CD, you stick your face on the little man and you kind of line him up in the prison there, and like that, and take a photograph, and the winners get guitar amps and bottles of rum, etc. There's the competition rule book. Here's the booklet. It's lyrics, it's artwork, its album credits, etc. And then there's the this is all the press release stuff. There's all the, again, more press release stuff, and a little note saying, "Hi John, enjoy." Wasn't expecting this. They sent me a digital copy, which I've been enjoying for the last week, and then yesterday morning this dropped through the door, so I thought, right, sod it, I'll put it on this week's Druids Dozen, because this is a cracking album. Now, loads of you that have caught both any of my radio shows will know that I do a featured album of the month, where basically I take a month and over both the Rock Druid and the BCFN Sunday Rock Show, I explore it, try and play as many tracks as possible, give it a really in-depth kind of look at. This is the album we're looking at this month, purely because I got the advanced copy through a couple of weeks ago on digital, and I thought, that's a cracking record. Now, this lot, they're out of Preston, 3-piece band in the studio, and they have a session drummer that kind of joins with its vocals, guitar, bass, bit of keyboards, and from the main people, session drummer comes in. Got some additional people on here as well, can't remember who, but doing guest slots on the album. And this lot are a kind of gothic metal band, got hints of I don't know, it's hard to explain, but they're very theatrical with it. If you can imagine, I don't know, Sisters of Mercy having a fist fight with Metallica and then going off doing Alice Cooper style productions. That's a okay way of explaining it. Maybe not the best, but bottom line is these guys are intense, they're theatrical, they're almost like prog rock in scope. It's their second album. The Art of Manipulation was their first one, and they play a series of characters throughout the albums where they kind of they're the staff of an asylum. I can't remember what the name of the asylum's called. It'll probably tell me on one of these press releases. The Whittingham Asylum, that's right. And the songs are about the inmates of the asylum. They call their people in their fan club inmates, and yeah, it's just this kind of very dark kind of somewhat like gothic approach to doing things. Like I said, musically these guys are superb. I mean, gotta tip me hat to all of them really. Gotta get my names right on here. You know, you've got Dr. von Stotzenberg, who's the lead guitarist. Dave Stott, his real name is, but absolute. He can solo, he can riff, but he can also make his guitar sound like it's crying. Great stuff. Wolfie Hunson on bass, and Psycho Berry, the female singer. What a voice she's got. What a voice. Closest thing I can describe her, maybe Sue Wainwright from Counter Pavonis, but in a slightly higher register, because Sue's quite downtime baritone, but yeah. But overall, just three talented people that know how to kind of throw together a really good, really packaged, really well realised sort of like concept album. Hard to pick all-time favourite moments on this, because I'm still in the kind of I'm loving this album and love it in toto kind of phase. Although tracks that have stood out so far, Broken Toys, Good Night Shot, Mr. Babadook, maybe the three that stand out at the moment, though if you let me live with it another week or two and ask me again, I'll probably come up with a separate 3 titles. But overall, just a brilliant album. So it's only just released, available through all good download sites, all good mail order sites, probably a few bad ones, but you don't want to go there. And if you're buying this album, you might as well buy the Art of Manipulation, its predecessor as well, because that's just as good. So yeah, Wall 16 Metamorphosis, highly recommended. And yeah, brand new release, came out about a week ago. Okay, next up, bit of Status Quo. Now a lot of you are going, that don't look like Status Quo. Believe me, it is. This is Status Quo's Mark Kelly's Greasy Spoon, 1970, I believe. There's the front, there's the back. $1970, yeah, this, just checking, just a standard PRT. This is a reissue from, say, Precision Records and Tapes, mid-70s. Originally came out on, as you can see, on the Pie label there. Now, this is probably, well, it is my favourite Status Quo album. In my opinion, this is the best record Quo have ever released. It's a transitional record. Pardon me with the hiccups. It, don't say, from 1967 through to sort of 69, Quo were doing the Picture the Matchstick Man, Ice in the Sun, Black Veils of Melancholy, Carnaby Street kind of psychedelic clothing, and you know, trying to sound a bit like The Move. But you know, Quo were rock and rollers first and foremost. They started out as a rock and roll band. They only kind of fell into the psychedelic era through record company pressure, and by 1970 the hits had dried up and they were beginning to rebel. Now the you know, live they were going more and more into a kind of blues rock vein, and then when they came to release this album, they decided to kind of ditch the psychedelia and go into blues rock, but not completely ditch the psychedelia. There are, first of all, you've still got Roy Lyons, the keyboard player from the really early days. This was the last album he appeared on, and before he kind of buggered off to Australia to become a PA engineer. But they were, so his keyboards and some of the songwriting still kind of hails back to the Spare Parts, Picturesque Matchstickable Images albums, which are the psychedelic era stuff. Although in other places, with its drive, its boogie, its production, its heavy use of blues, it does kind of look forward to you know, what would develop you know, by the mid-70s into the classic Status Quo heavy boogie sound. You know, the two albums that mark the transition are this one and the one that came after it, Dog of Two Heads, both of which will probably be my top 1 and 2 Quo albums, because I just like that transitional period. And you know, much as I love Quo, they did become a bit of a by the numbers band by the mid-70s, but this album's not. You've got cuts on here, yeah, you got Spinning Wheel Blues, and let's have a look. You got Junior's Wailing, which was originally by cover of a song by a band called Steamhammer, straightforward 12-bar heavy boogie. Then you've got things like Shy Fly, April, Spring, Summer and Wednesdays, Need Your Love, Lucky Lady. Lucky Lady being a early Fleetwood Mac number. But like I said, you've got, yeah, these kind of, although they're kind of quite heavy and boogie, and of course, oh, the closing, Is It Really Me, Gotta Go Home. You know, although they've got the kind of elements of the boogie, they still maintain kind of a bit of psychedelia in the sound, making for a very, very interesting blend. And although it's present in very small doses on Dog of Two Heads, it makes this album unique and, to my opinion, special. This is what Quo could have been had they not bitten the boogie bug completely. And it's a shame, because, you know, had Quo sort of like stayed a bit psych, as well as sort of like just gone heads down, see you at the N12 bar. You know, maybe they would have got a bit more kind of international recognition than they did. Not saying I dislike Later Quo. You know, I have all the albums, but well, up until 1986, but that's a different story. But overall, my favourite Quo album, and one I'd recommend to everybody. Status Quo, Mark Eddy's Greasy Spoon from 1970. Okay, next up, and would you believe it, we're back in Bath. There we go, there's the front. This probably might be a bit shadowy and shady. There's the back, which you're not going to see, but it's because I have trouble reading this with my glasses on. Track listing, basically. This is Rule of Day by Sharp End First. There's the disc. The booklet is mainly lyrics. Again, these ain't going to show up too well on here because it's dark printing, although that's a nice pretty picture. No band photos or anything. And there's a better look at the album cover there. Now, this album came out in 2008, that's 12 years ago, and I better do some brain racking to see if I can remember about them. I say they're out of Bath, and they were a kind of 4-piece metalcore outfit. Only around for a couple of years. If I remember rightly, the band broke up not long after they sent me this. If I remember rightly, I'd not long started on BCFM. I saw them live, maybe at the Fleece in Bristol, I'm not sure, but I saw them live, and then got this off them. Went to invite them, literally a few weeks later, went to invite them to come on the BCFM radio show for an interview, and only to be found out that the band were no more. What happened to the guys after that, I couldn't tell you. If you're a member of Sharp End First, or know any members of Sharp End First, please, comments down there on YouTube, over there on Facebook. Let me know whatever happened to Sharp End First. But anyway, it's a great band. These guys were good. It's like heavy metalcore kind of stuff. Very good at the kind of riffage. You remember right, you had the twin kind of vocals, one singing kind of quite metally and the other one as is the want of metalcore bands. Yeah, I know it gets a bit cliche because every song was doing it back then, but you know, there are times when if the music's backing it up is good enough, you can forgive the cliche on the vocals. This is an example. Yeah, there's some pretty good cuts on here. If I was going to select one that I'd recommend that you check out, it's track 3, Blinded by Belief. A rather stunning piece of corey metal that's kind of highly headbangable. Other highlights include Warshi. Oh yes, I forgot about Warshi. That was one that I got a lot of radio airplay on BCFM at the time. And Suffer Yourself, another one that I remember playing a fair bit. Yeah, overall pretty good. I don't know whether this is still going to be available anywhere at all. Maybe worth kind of asking around a few metal sites and collectors places whether you can get hold of a copy, but yeah, worth checking out. Interesting one. Rule of Day by Sharp End First. Okay, next up we're going to have a little bit of a change of gear. Yeah, Peter Schilling, The Error in the System. Probably this guy's best known album from 1983. There's the front. There's the back. And on here there's just lyrics Yeah, just lyrics, no credits or anything. Because the credits, if I remember rightly, are on the rear sleeve. Now, Peter Schilling, German electro rocker. Guy kind of, he was sort of like popular-ish in Germany. Imagine him like a kind of German Howard Jones, maybe. And then all of a sudden, in 1983, he suddenly found himself having a massive international hit single with a track called Major Tom Coming Home. Which is basically a kind of one of his additional kind of him kind of taking on the story of Major Tom, the David Bowie character, and putting his own spin. Apparently the story goes he supported Bowie in the around about 81, 82 in Germany, and said could he write the song, and Bowie gave him his blessing to use the character. And Major Tom Coming Home with Major Tom Part 2, which is an instrumental on here, were born. I remember listening to the single and thinking that's not bad, because I've always had a bit of a soft spot for some electronica stuff. I mean, you know, if you go through my collections that will come out of my collection at some point, you'll find albums by like Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, etc., and Landscape, which are kind of, you know, from that kind of scene. And you know, I sort of like, you know, I had the single, and then I managed to find the album going cheap in a Woolworths bargain back, so I grabbed it, and yeah, I only played this the other day, and it still holds up just as good now as it did back in 1983. Sorry. It kind of sounds a bit OMD. It sounds a bit kind of Bowie goes electro. But on the other hand, it keeps enough rock sensibilities around it to kind of make it listenable. However, where this album is really strong is the songwriting. Peter Schilling, considering most of these tunes are translated from German, and nearly everything else I've heard by Peter Schilling, it's the only album I've got. I've heard a few others by him, and nearly everything else I've heard from him has been in German exclusively. You've got this guy can write some really insightful, kind of quite poignant lyrics. You've got things like the Noah Plan and Error in the System, which are kind of ecological tracks. Let's Play USA, which is it's about kind of US imperialism, etc. Only Dreams, which is, let's have a quick look at the lyrics on it. But yeah, it's about TV advertising, selling your dreams, etc. And then you've got Silent Night, Holy Night, which has got some interest. It is the only track on here in German. It's got some interesting twisty lyrics about I'll read you some. It's saying in German, but the translation goes: Silent night, holy night, everything around us is comfortable, but on the other side of the world, the cup that holds life provides only rice, and their hardship comes from hunger, and through our weapons there comes their death. Yeah, it's kind of politically spot on. It's kind of you know, they call it SJW bullshit these days, but you know, I don't think it'd be an put it this way, I've been called an SJW, and if being opposed to racism, sexism, homophobia, etc. is being a social justice warrior, then paint a big SJW on my forehead and call me Nancy. But anyway, yeah, without getting into the politics and stuff, musically this album's great, lyrically this album's great, fantastically produced, fantastically performed. Note to Armin Sabol, who's was his regular session guitarist, does a lot of the co-writing and a lot of the co-production on this album. Just really, really good. Yeah, Peter Schilling, Error in the System, highly recommended. Okay, next up, a bit of a classic, The Crack by the Ruts. just not really a great deal to say about this. Just a classic punk album. One of the all-time classics from that kind of late 70s UK punk explosion. Sorry, there's the front. There's the back. Yeah, all it is on the inside there is the what's currently available in this series. Yeah, on Virgin reissue includes like bands like XTC, the Pistols, the Ruts, Public Image, the Mekons, etc. It's good stuff. Now, I can't remember exactly where the Ruts came from. Whether they were one of those Manchester bands with the Buzzcocks, whether they were London, I don't know. All I know is that they were originally kind of members of a prog rock band that saw the Pistols or the Clash or someone early days and decided they wanted to go punk. And went off and became the Ruts. Still going, of course, as Ruts AD, but was it Ruts DC? I can't remember. They're still going under some name or other. And yeah, this is just a great punk album. From the opening cut, which is the seminal Babylon's Burning, with its unbelievably complicated bass line. You try playing that on bass. I was a drummer. I don't know what the rhythm section of the Ruts were doing on that album or what they were taking, but it led to complications. Then you got just Order Out of Order, Human Punk, Your War, Savage Circle, It Was Cold, You're Just a... Every track on here is a bit of a pogo-y classic. Again, another album that I play quite regularly just for the hell of it because it's a great record. If you've not really heard the Ruts outside Babylon Burning, please do check out some of their other albums and some of their other tracks, because, you know, one of these bands that I get annoyed when you mention the Ruts and they go, oh, Babylon's Burning. And you say, and what else do you like by the Ruts? And they go, they did other stuff. Believe me, they did about 3 or 4 other albums worth of stuff, and they're all pretty damn good. So, you know, if you want Babylon's Burning, don't download the single, download or buy this album, because you get Babylon's Burning and you get some other great tracks by the Ruts as well. So yeah, the Ruts, The Crack, 1979, great stuff. Leads us on to the final one. And ready. Stryper, To Hell with the Devil. There's the front. Brace yourselves. There's the back. I'm trying to remember. Here's the gatefold. 1986 this came out, that's right. There's the gatefold there. Lyrics and pictures of Stryper in their full Stryper gear. Now, those of you that don't know, Stryper are probably the best known Christian heavy metal band ever. Yeah, they guys became quite infamous in the mid-1980s with their stackyles, their wasp suits, their hairspray, and their habit of throwing loaded Bibles into the audience. Basically, they were just one of their ways of spreading the word of Jesus. They would each sign each copy of the Bible would be, I think it's just the New Testament, or maybe just be even St. John's Gospel or something. But they'll each sign a different page, making note of one of their favourite Bible references. Throw them into the audience, and then if you want to find all the signatures, you had to read the Bible. Yeah, well. Now, before I continue, I will stress that I am not down on Stryper for being Christians. I am an atheist myself, although I did have a Christian upbringing, and you know, although I've kind of have many issues with organised Christianity, there's an overall ethos about religion, you know, especially the bit where it says, you know, you know, hey, get on with everybody, love everyone else. Stuff that a lot of Christians tend to forget, especially some of you US fundamentalists out there. Yeah, I'm talking, fuck you if you're listening. But anyway, overall, you know, most of the Christians I know are quite kind of, the true believing Christians are quite mellow, nice enough fellas and ladies. So I disagree with them on quite a few points. You know, they can be quite bigoted at places. But anyway, I'm not going to digress. Stryper, however, very, very much in that kind of vein. And now I'm about to give this album a slagging. And it's not because of Stryper's Christianity. It's not even because Stryper being Stryper. They got better. Some of the later Stryper albums, bearing in Stryper's still going, and albums sort of after this, even was it In God We Trust, the follow up to this, was a lot better than this, and a lot kind of more intelligent. But this album, and also I'll mention briefly the one before it, Yellow and Black Attack, suck big time. Now, the reason why it sucks, well, first of all, people wonder why Stryper used to dress up in stripes, orange and yellow and black stripes. They will claim it's from the Bible reference in Isaiah 53 where it says, by his stripes we are healed. No, it's not. The yellow and black, the yellow represents honey and cheese, and the black represents sick treacle, because that's what they sound like. It's cheesy, sickly, overly sweet, overly polished, naff as hell, kind of attempting at hair metal as you could get. Any kind of rock credibility Stryper may have had on this album is had the fuck produced out of it. It's been, you know, they say you can't polish a turd. Well, if you polish something enough, it becomes a turd. And I think this is where this album suffers. Some of the songwriting isn't that bad. You've got cuts like the opening cut, To Hell with the Devil. You've also got Rockin' the World. Not a bad song overall. And where is it? Yeah, The Way. Probably one of the better tracks on here. Yes, they get preachy on their lyrics, which is something that I think, you know, turns more people off than turns people on. But there again, if you want to be, you know, you can't always be as clever as the Resurrection Band lyrically. And if, you know, Venom can shout about the devil, Stryper can shout about Jesus. However, there are some really shit songs on here as well. The worst culprit is the sing-along song, which is basically, in a land of freedom, God has shed his grace. Long live America! Long live God! Long live Jesus! It's proud to live in such a place, and it's given us the right to sing song after song. This song's for you. Come on, sing along. Woo, 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 la, la. The song says nothing. If anything, it's overblown US jingoism wrapped up in Christianity and kind of given a really shit hair metal workout. You know, sorry, I do feel quite angry about that. I mean, it's, you know, I'm not anti-American, I'm not anti-Christian, as I said, but when you start kind of overblowing reality, then yeah, no. And I'm, you know, like most Europeans, I'm not a flag-waving patriot. Yeah, I'm quite pleased that I'm English and I live in England, and you know, I'm quite happy that I'm here, but I wouldn't go and say that England's the greatest country on earth to the detriment of everyone else, because I believe every country in the world has its up points and down points. Some more up than down, some more down than up, but overall, people are people, and I can't help being born where I was born. It's an accident of birth. But anyway, again, I'm digressing, because this album does bring out kind of my militant, angsty side. But yeah, the production on here is sickly sweet and overblown. It's has very few redeeming features on it, and it's just forgettable. It is terrible. I said, give Stryper their due. As they went on through later albums, they began to kind of wise up to their fables and foibles and begin to get a bit better, but you know, not on this album they didn't. So yeah, Stryper, to hell with the devil, not one I would recommend, unless A, you want to laugh, B, you want to get angry, or C, you're a Stryper completionist. But overall, a pretty forgettable record. So that's it for this week. I overrun a little bit longer than normal, but never mind. Did you agree with what I said? Did you disagree? Do you want to make issue about my opinion of Stryper and why I'm wrong about the Tale of the Devil album, or why I'm right about the Tale of the Devil album? Comments are to be left down there on YouTube, over there on Facebook, and yeah, it's always good to hear feedback from you. So don't forget to check out the radio shows again. Comments there and there, and what do I say? Yeah, if you like what you hear, like, subscribe and share. So until next week, peeps, I'll be back with Druids Dozen number 21. I'm out of here. Bye.